Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to everyone who's tuned in. Thank you for coming along to celebrate, acknowledge, support Christelle Damiens' book launch. Is it time to start exporting to Europe? And what a great celebration this actually is. My name is Andrew Griffiths, and I have the absolute pleasure of being the host today and MC for this online book launch. So I really want to say it's a great pleasure for me. I've been a part of Christelle's publishing journey through her first book, her second book, and now the third book, and more about that in a few minutes. The way things are going to work on our online launch today is that I'm going to do a little bit of background. I'm going to talk a little bit about Christelle. We've got a great video that we want to show, which will give you a wonderful insight into not only the work that Christelle and her team do, but also this fabulous book, Is It Time to Start Exporting to Europe? Then I'm going to get Christelle live on the line. I'm going to ask her a whole pile of questions, give her the grilling that all good authors need to have. We've got another video that we want to show. Initially, I want to talk to Christelle about exporting and what is going on in the world of exporting. What does it really look like? And that'll be a really interesting kind of conversation, as I know that anyone who's tuning in today has an interest in exporting, wherever you are in the world. Then the second round of questioning, what I want to do is I want to dive a little bit deeper into what the new book is all about. What was the journey like for Christelle in writing it? Because it's quite a different type of book to her first two. So we're going to cover both of those topics as well. The actual event is being recorded, so if for some reason you do need to leave early, we'll make sure that you get a link to the recording, as well as links to where you can get a hold of the book and any other kind of relevant information as well. By all means, if you've got any questions, if you'd like to give any feedback, if you'd like to connect and engage in any way, please use the chat box. And we will do our utmost to either answer your question or acknowledge that. And I'm just going to start by saying, could you maybe drop a little hello in the chat box and let us know which part of the world you're actually tuning in from today? I know Christelle will know most of you, but it's also always kind of nice just to see where everyone is. So just in the chat box, folks, if you can do that, and I'll have a bit of a look at that as we move through. Now, while you're doing that, I'd like to say a few words about Christelle. As I said, I first met her, I don't know, probably 10 years or so ago now, when she was working on her first book, doing an entrepreneurial program and called the KPI program. And Christelle's first book was Ready Tech Go, which was really a fascinating kind of take for me from someone who really does know a great deal about exporting, and her desire and her passion to help then Australian companies, Australian technology companies in particular, to start their exporting kind of journey. So we spent a lot of time, and it was, soon really obvious just how much Christelle actually does know about the exporting side of things there. An amazing book, and really, for a first book, a great read, a lot of information and incredible feedback as well. With Christelle's second book, which came out in around 2000 from memory, the 4 steps to generating your first €1,000,000 in sales. Most authors, what we do, we get better as we write more books, we learn more, we get better at the craft. And this book, even though I love Christelle's first book, the second one was really targeted, generate that €1,000,000 in sales in 4 steps. And exactly as the book kind of says, that's exactly what was offered. Now, this book actually won 2 awards as a finalist in the Smart WFM Australian Business Book Awards in 2020. And that's a real acknowledgement of what the actual quality of this book is about. Both the information, the way it was published, really everything in there, the story shared, the advice. Both of those books, to me, were really extraordinarily generous in terms of the information, the practical advice, the tips, really it was an unpacking of exactly what Christelle and her team at Exportia do when they're helping organizations to expand into Europe. Then, of course, we rattle on to book number 3 in 2024. And is it time to start exporting to Europe? Now, this is lessons learned from exporters globally. And Christelle and I started working on this book in 2020 when we were sharing ideas and thoughts about it. And I'm a book writing coach, so my work is to coach these great authors like Christelle. But the ideas are hers. The thinking about reaching out and talking to people around the world who were running organizations that were actually exporting to have a really bigger global perspective. And it's an extraordinary book in so many different ways, but we'll get into that in a few minutes and when we get Christelle on the line. But first of all, what I want to do is share a short video, which I think really kind of paints a great picture about Christelle, her team at Exportia, and of course this fabulous book. So without further ado, here we go.
According to McKinsey, for every successful market entry, about 4 fail. It doesn't have to be this way. Being successful in Europe does not only require business connections and networks. It's not only about opportunities. It is rather about agility and continuous learning. And this is why this book, Is It Time to Start Exporting to Europe, is an accelerator of your success in the European market.
Christelle Damiens is a third-time author. Her second book, The 4 Steps to Generate Your First €1 Million in Sales, is the 2020 winner of the Communications and Sales category of the Smart WFM Australian Business Book Award. She is the director of a business called Exportia. She and her team have worked with over 100 businesses from around the world at every stage of their expansion in the European market. From initial market entry, followed by initial sales, to building a Europe-wide presence. Her third book, Is It Time to Start Exporting to Europe? Lessons Learned from Exporters Globally, shares with the readers what they need to know about the latest European trends impacting trade. It also gives to the reader an access to a community of exporters from around the world as businesses navigate opportunities and challenges in Europe. They can take this book and deep dive into the 8 export stories of businesses that have already been through their own European journey and are sharing how they went about it.
The book has 2 parts. The first one delves into the new state of exporting, key trends, opportunities, and why it is the right time to start exporting to Europe. The second share 8 case studies from CEOs and professionals from around the world, from the USA, from Japan, from Australia, and from India. They share their market entry strategy, they share what they wish they had done differently on the hindsight. He also summarized 12 lessons learned that are the most impactful for any exporters to Europe.
Do you want to hear about the latest business opportunities and trends in Europe and how they impact your business as you enter and grow the European market? Do you want to know how other businesses like yours have done it in the past? How did they manage to sign large European corporate clients? How did they work with distributors or channel partners? Would you like to learn how companies in your sector have tackled challenges and leveraged opportunities in Europe? If any of these topics resonate with you, then this book is for you.
Okay, well, here you have me for big screen now. Let's invite Christelle to join us, and let's do it. Hello, Christelle. I've got
Hello, hello.
I've got to do this now and do congratulations, celebrations, some tinsel things. It's I don't know how to turn it off, so it's easy that I do it. But a big congratulations to you.
Thank
Uh,
you.
It is a really extraordinary thing to write a book, and to write 3 books is phenomenal. And I really do get the feeling that you're not stopped just here. I don't think we're pausing at 3 books. Is my gut feeling that we have here. How does it feel for you?
Well, it feels like a lot of joy because this one, I don't know, but it was kind of next level in terms of the challenge of writing this book. So for me, I'm really pleased. I'm excited, and it feels like a journey, like not only from the book writing, but from the business, from everything. Like it's really interesting.
A lot's changed in the last 4 years. We're going to
Yes.
talk about that a little bit. Okay, so I've got a few questions. I'm going to dive in. It feels like we're on 60 minutes here. Tick, 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 tick. For those of you who don't necessarily know, I know a lot of people on the call are people who you would know, but there are also people in the live stream that we've got happening on LinkedIn as well who may not know a little bit about you or know a lot about you. Could you tell us what your company Exportia actually does?
Yes, so Exportia helps non-European businesses enter the European market, and basically we're a sales-focused business. So what we do is mainly find customers, grow the sales on behalf of our customers with our customers, and we've got key sectors like advanced manufacturing, high tech, electronics, med tech, green tech. We're really focused on our sectors.
Right. And so helping people to also make that call, make that decision. Are you ready? Is it because I think that must be a hard part of the exporting kind of timeline is to know it's appealing to want to export, but are you ready? Are you export ready? And I know that's something that you talk about a lot.
Yeah, so being export ready is really important because it's taking your business to overseas and to Europe. If you don't do it right and you start to go into the wrong country, for example, you can actually stay there years with no result. And the investment is quite costly, and most of our clients are small, medium-sized, high growth businesses, and you want really to make sure that they head to the right direction.
I think it reaches that stage, doesn't it? Sometimes when people, perhaps when you've invested a lot of time and energy, you keep going, even if it's not working, because you've got to return that investment, rather than saying, hey, this hasn't worked, we should move on or do it differently or approach it quite differently. There's a big lesson to be learnt in that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What's your background? How did you get into this? I mean, I don't imagine you left school and started exporting, right?
Almost.
Nice.
Not quite. No, so I studied business, and I came the first time in a long time ago as an exchange student in Australia to do my MBA, international business. So I've always studied, did all my internship as a student overseas and always worked in export and sales. And so my background is I worked initially, I come from France. I started my career in export for a small business, and I worked in corporate sales for IBM for a number of years, selling very large systems, large contracts to big banks and insurance. And then I decided, okay, I want to go back to small business, and I'd like to go back to international sales. And so that's when I migrated to Australia. I started the business straight away, pretty much. So that's
Nice. Well, quite a journey. And what's changed for you, I guess, in the last few years, since writing this book? Starting in 2020, the last 4 years in particular have been a little bit chaotic and crazy for everyone in business. What's happened with Exportia and what you're doing in that time?
Yeah, so a lot has happened for us. I mean, I grew my team in Europe because I used to do a lot of travel, and of course, the world had been so crazy that we needed to have more people in the ground, in the field. So we grew the team, and they're all on the call today. So we grew the team in Europe. We have now a bigger team. We also have diversified our customer base. So we not only initially we just had Australian customers, you know, that's where I set up the business in 2006. And now we have truly customers from around the world, from Asia, from the US. And so we're applying our own recipe to our own business.
Exporting, I love it. But what are your team? What do they do? So you've got the team in Europe. What are the things they're doing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so what they do on a daily basis, they actually generate leads for our customers. They get a foot in the door for them, pretty much. They are, you know, sales managers for them, so manage the relationship with large corporate accounts in Europe, make sure they you know, they get what they need, but there's also we go from leads to sales, and they also manage relationship with key partners, channel partners, distribution partners. So that's their role. They really work, and of course they report back to our customers as if they were part of their team.
Right. And go to trade shows, things like that as a part of it.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, interesting. So I guess then the question that we've got to ask with a book like yours coming out, you know, if you're going to write a book saying, is it time to start exporting to Europe? And I do love this book, by the way. Is it time to start exporting to Europe? You know, we've got to say it is because we've written the book, but maybe why is it time, you know,
Yes.
for companies to be doing that? It's probably a better question.
Yes, so it is time. And the reason why, particularly for companies in our sectors, so high-tech sectors, there are some very deep key trends that really create opportunities for those businesses. So you've got a lot of opportunities in green tech because Europe is, you know, they're very ambitious. They want to be the first carbon neutral continent by their objective is by 2050. So there's a lot of opportunities in that sector. There's a lot of opportunities as well in digitization. So, you know, acceleration of digitization for the population at the European level, country by country, access to digitization skills, but also for the companies to go completely paperless. I think everybody learned their lesson from COVID that everything had to be digitized. Yeah. And so also there's more opportunities because now you can access those European customers via conferencing, via creating online communities. So it creates more access and more opportunities as well. I think what's also important for our customers and what creates opportunity for them is the push to modernize and automate more the manufacturing, you know, engines of Europe, you know, modernize all those industries. Everybody wants to be self-reliant for a lot of products and technologies. They don't want to be so dependent, but they're still very open to buy technology from overseas, which I find really fascinating. And AI everywhere, every field, you know, Europe is a bit lagging behind in that. So there's a lot of need to embrace AI and a lot of initiative to accelerate that part. Cybersecurity, a lot, the acceleration in terms of number of cybersecurity attacks has been tremendous. And so that creates opportunity in that field as well for companies. And in the health care sector, pharma, medtech, there's a lot of opportunities. You know, making, again, each of the European countries want to have their own pharma industries working well and making them, self-reliant. But also, how are we going, a post-pandemic world in the healthcare sector? Some of the lessons learned by the union is, shouldn't we have better communicated between countries in a better digital way to share information and signals? And so that creates for, our world of startup and SMEs, high growth businesses, a lot of opportunities. That's a big trend, really.
It's really interesting. I think, again, through some of our conversations during COVID, Christelle, I get the feeling that the pandemic actually sped up a lot of things. And it certainly feels to me like it made exporting a more attractive option, I guess, with different kind of complexity. But things became, well, we have to communicate via Zoom or whatever platform we're going to use, or Teams. We have to be able to work remotely. We have to do all those things. Whereas before they were hurdles that, it's too hard, it's too this. What other things do you think changed as a result of COVID?
Yeah, so if we take that example of video conferencing, if we take the examples of pharma or the big chemical multinationals, a lot of their workforce in Europe doesn't work on site anymore at all. So if you are setting up meetings, you really need to make sure they're going to be there, and you have people are not on site permanently. So it changes the whole dynamic. You do a lot of online meetings before you actually go on site. I had one of my team members last week. She had a meeting set up with a government person. He was sick. His colleague couldn't step in because he was working from home. So it's a whole different dynamic on that scope. So that has changed deeply in the organizations.
Has it created any more urgency, with people looking for the European market as an option?
Yes. So what happens is, if I flip it the other way, Europeans want to expand their supply to a more diversified, origin, source of products. They want to be to mitigate their risk, and so having several suppliers creates opportunity for companies like our clients, because then they have the opportunity to get in. Before, there were very strong relationship with one specific partner, and it made it very hard. But what we found is, with our customers, even if they're small, we managed to get in because we were seen as a good alternative to other suppliers. So that did create some opportunities in that sense in the technology sector.
It's a fascinating and I guess exciting kind of an industry, and with the world kind of spinning ever faster. And now for you dealing with organizations around the world, that must be an interesting amount of knowledge kind of coming into your business as well. I guess a question that I would have here is, before we kind of dive into the book side of things, is, are there issues that people face when they're starting exporting? Are they the same in America, or if they're in Korea, or if they're in Japan exporting to Europe? Is it the same hurdles? I mean, I guess that's a tough question. I'm not sure. It just feels like every country is so unique. What makes it easier for someone to be exporting into Europe?
Yeah, so there are some commonalities in terms of issues. So, accessing large corporate accounts. I guess that's for a small business, and medium size, whether they come from Japan, from the US, Australia, same. In terms of what I find now that I compare US companies and Australian companies and others, is Australians may struggle a bit more for funding rather than US companies that often really, would like to grow, let's go. And so that's would be, I think, for Australian businesses an impediment. In terms of the mistakes, and I found they were, or the learnings, I found they were a bit the same as Australian customers. Yes. The only two things that were really different and I did find fascinating was one of the, maybe we'll talk about the book a bit more, so stop me there if I do. But for example, what the Japanese case study was saying is, in Japan, our business model is that we actually don't talk to the end user. We go through their trusted partner. And so they had to shift for Europe, because in Europe, you actually have to talk to the end user. And then you work with the partner, the trusted advisor as well. But it's not, you have to do both. So that was a bit of a shift. And also, I think for the Indian company, what Vinod really pushed really hard, and that business did really well, is they wanted to go against the cliche that in Indian technology was low quality in terms of manufacturing. So they worked really, really hard to broadcast high quality products, solid, meeting really the European standards. So that's a bit of a two different perspectives from that, for that part.
It's such an interesting point, though, isn't it? Because, wherever you come from, there is that preconceived views. Australia, it's a long way, freight's expensive, things get damaged, it's problematic, or, it could be from a country like India where there's an assumption that maybe it's lower quality based on, an old view more than anything else, I'm sure, but I can understand different hurdles and different barriers. We want to talk a bit more about the book. Before we do that, we've touched on now that you did 8 case studies in the book, and we've actually got a video from one of the chaps who was interviewed. Would you mind just telling us a little bit about Marcus and why you interviewed him, what his company does, how that all kind of works, and then we'll play the video.
Yeah. Marcus is traveling in the US, actually, so that's why he's not here today, but he kindly gave us his blessing to share his story and then the recording of the original interview. And so he has a very interesting background. So he founded his business in 2006. So what happens with him is he's a Swiss national. He moved to Japan because he actually set up the development center of SAP in Japan. And then he decided to start his own business, initially a consultancy. So that's Visions. And then he transformed it into a software business. And he set up his own software company, and he had on his team a mix of Swiss personnel and Japanese team, so a bit of a mix. And when Fukushima came along, some of his Swiss team after that decided to go back to Europe, and that coincided for him with the time where he thought, okay, it's time to take the business to Europe. And so that's how it all started. So I think I will let the video say the rest on what it meant.
Great.
With hindsight, I think the first time we entered the market and we spent a lot of money for our size, and trying to enter the market by force, and we kind of had a team, and we had a representative office, and we were at kind of trade shows. We hired dedicated companies that helped us with the marketing and a little bit of outsourced go-to-market help, like business development. And I had more staff than now, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 5, 6 full-time kind of expensive employees in Switzerland. We weren't able to really break through. Some talking points, and as I mentioned, they're very early customers, so they were really, really valuable. On the other hand, any professional investor wouldn't accept the performance, of what we did there, and we found it a lot harder. And I think maybe what we underestimated a little bit, we thought, okay, because we speak the language, because I'm a native of this region, it should be a lot easier. But it isn't, right? And I think what we offered and the way we sell it and the way we position and market it, I think is quite different in Europe versus in Japan, for instance, in our case. And it didn't work that well. And now the second time around, we go in much leaner, and I did all of the messaging towards the market myself. Being kind of like the CEO of the company, but I kind of mentally set the go-to-market and the messaging for the new market is kind of like a CEO matter now. It sounds kind of crazy because I'm writing like homepage texts and PDFs and PowerPoints. And on the other hand, I realized like I'm the person that knows the product best. Every customer meeting I have, every sales meeting I have gives me additional information on where we are not a good fit for the European market, where our product doesn't fit, or where maybe our messaging, the way we present, or the way we kind of compete, where there's not a fit for the European market. I can take all these lessons from every sales call and then adjust them in my marketing efforts. It may be because we are selling a little bit more mid-market than enterprises in Europe, but the customers' IT departments are really, really involved in driving the decisions. And in Japan, a lot of at least from the big companies, a lot of the decisions came in through the system integrators. I mean, the final decision is out of the customer, but the initial kind of like, do I even propose you, or do I even consider you? That's
definition and so on.
Yeah. And I feel like Europe is a little bit special there. The IT departments are much more hands-on, much more involved, much more in control of what's going on. And that also changes then, of course, who we sell to, and because all of a sudden now maybe the customer is the decision maker that gets us in or not, and not the customer's trusted advisor, the system integrator. It's the actual customer themselves and so on. And I think these are the little things where we're still fine-tuning and trying to find out.
An interesting insight, Christelle, isn't it, into into the lessons learned, and that's complex, right? Swiss company based in Japan, exporting to Europe. All they need to do is be buying their products from Indonesia to add another layer.
It's actually a Swiss CEO with a Japanese team running a Japanese business that has also a corporate headquarters in the US.
Oh, really?
So it's even more interesting.
So that was a big difference in this particular book was the first two were a lot of your experience and your practical knowledge and expertise and what you were seeing on a day-to-day basis with the clients that you're working with, and what you're seeing in Europe, of course, as well at the coalface. So with this book, the part about it where you went out to the 8 different companies, how did you choose which companies you wanted to interview?
Well, that was very hard. I really wanted companies in our sector, or companies that could really bring an angle that could be useful for our type of companies we work with. So, and the way I didn't want to interview, I only have one of our customers in that case, in that book on purpose. I wanted a challenge. I wanted, to check if what we've implemented and explained in the second book is how does that verify? I mean, is that applicable for a US business? Is that applicable for a Japanese business or an Indian business? And so I really wanted to have that breadth, and I really wanted to make sure they were going to be from different parts of the world to make the stories very valuable. And how I went about it, I mean, there was a bit of a trek. It went all kind of different ways. So I did target a lot of them directly. And we didn't target 8, we targeted much more than that. And I also called on the help of our network of business partners and acquaintances. So I had a few introductions as well from partners. I also had an introduction from a person I met through the first book. An associate professor of Kentucky University who had recommended my first book to his students. And I sent him the second book for his students, and we've stayed in touch. And when he's based in the US, when it came to say, okay, I need case studies from the US, I just asked him, I said, Jim, do you know? And he introduced me one of the case studies, which was Duco, the ceramics, the technical ceramics. So that was really, really interesting.
I guess for a lot of people to do interviews, you either don't want to give up your trade secrets, like what did you do, or maybe you don't want to share the not so good stories. I thought that was really lovely then, the way that Marcus was very open and very honest about, look, we got that wrong, we got that right, we learned. I mean, but surely every company that exports to Europe has got a trail of what we got right, what we got wrong, what we would do different next time. Surely that's the case, right?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, the key to it, everybody makes mistakes. The most important is to stay agile and correct and fine tune. And I think all of them successfully, have understood that they are going with the strategy, they learn from it, they fine tune, go again, they're persistent, but then they stay agile and keep adjusting the strategy. And I agree with you. I mean, all of them have been extremely vulnerable and shared a lot of their learnings. I mean, this is about their challenges, their successes, the lessons they learned. So it's really, really generous of them.
It's super generous, isn't it? And I noticed in the video where introducing you and Exportia in the book, you said the two things are you've got to be agile, as you were just saying. So agility and continued learning. That constant learning, adapted, two of the keys for success in the market. And is that what you found from interviewing those particular businesses, that were the attributes that they had that have ultimately helped them to be successful?
Yes, I think the most successful ones really were the ones that stayed in the market and changed their strategy. So Joe, one of the case study, Joe, for example, in the software, he's got a software business. He's a VP of a software business. What he said is initially they really wanted to go direct to end customers, to big multinationals. And then after that, they started to work with channel partners, with distribution partners. And he said, I just wish we had done that earlier. We would have been in so much in a such better position if we had done that from the start. So there's a lot of things and lessons, but yeah, using partners is one of them that a lot of them have shared.
I guess that leads into my next question, which we probably touched on a little bit though, but like, what are the key themes or messages that you would hope that readers will take from the book? I guess in not only learning from those 8 case studies, but also your interpretation of what you learnt or what they shared with you.
Yeah, so I think there was some of the lessons, and I think that's Joe again, which mentioned that he said that what was important, and that's also, I think, important for our clients, is to always have a focus on the total addressable market in Europe. So focus in a large market and really try to get that work, because you get bigger. It might take time, but you will get bigger volumes, bigger sales down the track, and it will save you time afterwards. So, and then being persistent and focused, I think the way you really learn, once you've chosen the right country and you've validated this potential, it's really about being focused and not have that shotgun approach. I think that's one of my take from all of them. They were extremely focused. They tried not to spread themselves so too thinly. So that was also one of the takeaway from us. And that's the same for our customers. Focus is a key priority. I think it is important to be focused when you come into the European market.
And so when you were actually going through the researching process, like I'm pretty sure because of your experience and expertise, you would automatically kind of go, I'm probably not going to hear anything that I wouldn't expect to hear. But I also know that you're very open-minded. I mean, were there unexpected insights or things that you were surprised to hear that maybe resulted in you changing any of the direction or advice that you offered in the book?
Yeah, so there's two things that I didn't expect. Is one of the, so I think there was Marcus, but also Joe, and also CleanSpace, Alex from CleanSpace, they agreed, but more strongly Joe and Marcus. It was about, for them, the channel partner, that the partner that you choose in Europe is as important as the product itself. How good is your product? So that was, for me, that was like, we've been setting up distribution partners, channel partners, network throughout Europe for years. But for them for Marcus and Joe to emphasize again how important that is. And that was really, I was like, well, actually, yes, it's right. And it's even more important for small, medium-sized your businesses, because you're tapping into a very large ecosystem. So that gives you a footprint that is much bigger than what you would have done it yourself. So that was one where I was like, well, I know it, but that is reinforced, and I see the scale of it. The other one was looking at a business which acquired another business like Ducor, and he inherited European customers. And I was like, well, actually, we haven't had that in our portfolio before. I'm very intrigued to see how is it, why not acquire customers by acquiring another business?
Already doing it. Yeah. But you
Yeah,
acquire the good and the bad, right? You get the history and the I
exactly.
get, it's a different type of due diligence on that side of things.
Exactly. So you sometimes, in their case, they had to renegotiate some of the terms that with those customers, and they bought a business that went bankrupt, and that was not without any reason, as they found out. It's just the pricing that business was practicing was way too low, so they had to renegotiate all the terms. They had to negotiate the terms of the sales agent. So there was a lot of, and I thought, oh my God, this is really interesting to hear that. So I love that story for that. It gives another angle as well to exporting to Europe.
And it's interesting because it was the unexpected thing again. You don't really think of inheriting, or acquiring or whatever it might be, a business that already has that, which is unusual because we think about that. If I was buying another company in Australia, you're buying it for their customers, for their revenue, for their turnover. You don't think about that necessarily when it comes to the exporting side of things. The last question I would like to ask you here, Christelle, before I talk a little bit more about Exportia, what you got planned, is what impact do you hope your book will have for organizations, for people, leaders, people that are charged, I guess, with driving exporting? What do you hope the book will do for them, or the impact it will have on them?
Yeah, so the intent of having stories was in comparison to the other books, which are more, this is how you do it. We're very systematic in our business, very methodical. We are step 1, step 2. We have our 4 steps. We've got a framework. And the second book particularly is about implementing that. So it's more like you do this and you do that. And because we've done it, but with many businesses. But this book is more about, okay, these are stories of people who have done it. They've done it, they've learned from it, and they're sharing that with you. So it's a different way. People learn different ways. They like to hear their peers say it. They don't like to be told what to do. If they're like me. And so, they can have the method, but then they can have the stories from other people, from peers. So I'm hoping that's another way for them to learn about the journey and to implement it to their business and learn from it from a third party, pretty much.
Yeah, nice. I love it. Okay. I'm going to move on just briefly, a couple more minutes there, folks. But what I want to say, I guess, is the book obviously is out now. This is the official, again, launch, and see if we can get some more balloons to come up. Thank you. It's got to happen on the launch side of things. So is it time to start exporting to Europe? It's available on Amazon and all of the associated Amazon on your website as well, Christelle, which again will share all of those details. Doesn't really work to put them up here like this, but it's available. I'm going to say to you, if you do buy a copy, please do, Christelle, a favor or the right thing by leaving a comment and some feedback about the book on Amazon. For us authors, getting testimonials on platforms like Amazon, Booktopia, whatever it might be, it's hugely important. The last kind of wrap-up question I guess I would have for you, Christelle, is also like, what's Exportia going to look like in the next couple of years? What are some of the projects you've got underway? What are some of the things you think you'll be working on? Obviously, the company's going to keep growing, but just give us a bit of an overview on what that actually looks like.
Yeah, so actually, it's interesting because we have in the recent few months, year or 2 years, we signed our first US customer. It must have been in 2022. So, and we've seen an acceleration. I think we will work more and more with international businesses from anywhere they come from anywhere, and I think we'll be a bit more. We won't be so much defined as an Australian business. I think our center is refocusing towards Europe. This is, where the team is based. I'm almost the odd one to be based part of the year in Sydney. So the center will be more growing in Europe, and then we'll have. I can see already we're starting to work with Asian businesses, which is extremely interesting, and we'll have more of those. We've worked as well with more and more with US governments to take some of their businesses in our core sectors, to visit customers, organize some business matching. So I think we will do a lot more of that as well, working with government. That will be also the case, but the core of the business will stay the same. You know, the core industry verticals that we specialize in, small, medium size, high growth, that will stay. This is where we needed. This is what we're passionate about, where the challenges are. And so we'll stay this way.
I love it. It must be a wonderful feeling to help an organization, wherever they are in the world, to either start the exporting journey or to help them refine whatever it is that they're perhaps doing to get better results. I mean, it's very straightforward. I mean, when you're driving sales, it's either working or it's not, right?
Yeah.
There's you know, sales is such a measurable kind of a beast as well. And are you, I mean, are you bullish about exporting, you know, generally over the coming years? You know, what are your thoughts?
I am, because a lot of barriers have been removed in terms of, you know, accessing customers. The corporate customers we talk to in Europe are open for discussions. They're open to talk to suppliers from different parts of the world. So I'm very bullish. I mean, even though we've had, you know, with the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, we've still grown, and we've seen, you know, more and more of our customers go to Europe, and also there's that post-pandemic effect where companies are like, okay, now we need sales. And so they're really accelerating their international development. So I don't see that coming, you know, slowing down. I think it will be an acceleration.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, fabulous. All right. Well, I think we're going to start to wrap it up. Has anyone got any questions out there that you've got for Christelle in our last few minutes? These are always awkward. You know, what do you ask at a book launch? I rarely see people asking questions, but by all means, if you've got something you would like to ask about the book writing process, you know, just tell us everything you know about the world of exporting in 30 seconds or less, Christelle. You know, those kind of, you know, simple, obvious questions. I've got to ask you the ridiculous one, of course, which is, have you got any thoughts about book number 4 at this stage of the game that you would like to share? That's a mean question.
Have many thoughts. I have many thoughts. I don't know what to share, because I have a full list, to be honest. I've got about 10 ideas about the next book, and I don't want to share any because I'm thinking then I'm going to have to go that path. I haven't decided, but I have many ideas for other books.
That's a very diplomatic way of doing it, because it is, once you announce it, right, you are committed, man. You now got to go and write that damn thing, because I mentioned it in passing on there, and it's like everyone will be asking you for the next 10 years, where's that book? Where's that book? Where's that book? Where's that book? And it doesn't matter if you've moved on or not, you still got to write it. Okay, everyone's been quiet, so I'm going to say, look, thank you, Christelle. It's an absolute pleasure to have been able to MC today. It's been a pleasure for me to work with you over the last, you know, 10 or so years with watching your book writing kind of journey and seeing the amazing things you do at Exportia, and the extraordinary things I think you're doing is championing the export industry as well, not only in Australia now, but you know, all over the world, and I think it's quite extraordinary. And I think that sometimes it's easy to forget the impact that has, and it's fabulous to see you doing that. So yeah, a huge congratulations on this book, folks. Grab a copy. It is a beautifully published book. We were talking before. As book nerds, we love the on the cover. Or, you know, we you know, like, yeah, we love the cover. We've got the, you know, it's beautifully printed on the inside. It's a really lovely, stunning book inside and out. It's got lots of words that are all about exporting to Europe.
And images.
And cartoons. We've even got cartoons in this one. I mean, it's like, you're just going crazy now. We're getting sophisticated. We've got everything, but it's beautiful. Please grab a copy. We'll share where you can get it from. Thank you, Christelle. I wish you the greatest luck with this book. I know it's going to be very successful.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for making the time. I really appreciate your contribution there. And also the nudge when I came up with the crazy idea, you said, yep, you should do it. And I was like, oh, where do I start now? I have to do it.
Mentioning it to me is like mentioning it to the world, isn't it? Right? You know that. Every time I see people walk across the street when they see me coming because they know I'm going to ask them about their book. My absolute pleasure. And thank you to everyone who joined us on the call today as well. You've got a big fan club out there, Christelle. So enjoy. Bask in the glow of a new book.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.